Recently, I read a story on Reddit about two old friends meeting. One was upset because she had been passed over for promotion again. The other had spent several years building a small business, was already supporting herself with it, and had finished the manuscript of a book in the evenings. When she was asked what was new, she first wanted to keep her answer short, not look too excited, not make her friend feel worse. But she told her about the book anyway, and heard, "Are you ever going to get a real job?" That is how your environment can change the size of your life. No one locks the door. No one takes the project away. You simply begin talking about what matters more quietly than you feel it. First, you leave out one detail. Then you add, "I'm just trying it for now." A few months later, even you no longer understand why the idea that once lit up your eyes now sounds like an embarrassing hobby. Today, we are going to find the exact moment when you turn yourself down. On one sheet of paper, no war with the people you love, and no list of people you need to delete immediately. I'm Sweden. This is not a this. In the last video, we applied the Sati method to money. We looked for the version of you for whom having enough doesn't feel foreign or dangerous. If you missed it, the link will appear above. Watch it later when you want to go through the full money practice. Today's subject is closer. It sits at your kitchen table, writes in the family group chat, and sometimes speaks in your own voice. During this video, you will see three things: exactly where you become smaller, whose reaction you are still predicting in advance, and which people allow you to live without making your life easier to understand, more modest and safer for anyone else. Then we will go through all 8 steps of the Sati method. You will not decide whom to live. Today is not a day for a sudden decision. First, we will separate the people from the role you play around them. By the end of that practice, instead of a beautiful slogan, you will have one sentence you can say in a real life. For example, I'm launching this project, or this is what I charge for my work, or I want a relationship where people speak to me directly. A new version of you begins inside a sentence that's simple, not in your head, in a conversation where you don't take your words back. Before I tell you my story, let's do a small experiment. Picture an ordinary day. Your phone is beside you, you open a chat, start to type something, and hover over the keyboard for a second. I'm going to describe 4 scenes. Hold down one finger for every scene you recognize. Don't analyze for too long. Your first reaction is usually more honest. First scene. You have already made a decision, but you describe it as an experiment. Inside the sentence is, I'm opening a studio. In the message, it becomes, I'm thinking of doing a little something for myself. We'll see. The meaning is the same, the size is different. Second scene. You're choosing a course, a job, a trip, or a relationship. Suddenly, you hear a specific voice in your head. Maybe your mother's, maybe your ex-husband's. It sounds calm, almost caring. Are you sure? Why do you need this right now? You always make everything more complicated. The person is not there, but the conversation has already influenced your choice. Third scene. Something good has happened. You were invited to an interview, or a client said yes, or someone showed real interest in you. You pick up your phone, find the name of someone close to you, and postpone telling them. Not because it's a secret. You can already see the expression, the pause, or the sentence that will make your happiness smaller. Fourth scene. No one insulted you during the conversation. There was no argument either. But you closed the door or leave the call with heavy shoulders, as though you had been holding your stomach in 4 hours. Only later do you remember how many times you agreed, laughed at the wrong moment, or moved the conversation away from yourself and onto someone else. How many fingers are still up? Even one deserves attention. Two or more usually mean that you have been adjusting the size of yourself to a particular environment for a long time. You can write the number in the comments. No explanation. Sometimes seeing dozens of the same numbers beside yours is enough to stop thinking you're strange. After my old life fell apart, I was left in a country that was not mine. With my son, the relationship was gone, our familiar home was gone, and so was the feeling that I understood what tomorrow would look like. I held on to the people from my old life. Of course I did. They remembered me before the airport, before the failure, before the days when I had to be afraid to look calm at the same time for my child. We had a group chat. We talked about ordinary life. Who bought what, who had argued with her husband, whose mother was sick, who was to blame this time. The subjects changed, but the mood stayed the same. Everything is bad. People let you down, the world is unfair, and hope is dangerous. When I talked about a new plan, they remind me of my situation. How are you going to manage on your own? Come back. Just get a job somewhere. At last you'll have a paycheck. Sometimes it was even simpler. You have bread, that's already something. Conversations like that rarely look like an attack. They are more like weather that stays for weeks. You get used to the gray sky and stop planning your days as though sunshine is ever possible. The most uncomfortable part is that I said similar things to other people. I was part of that circle. I supported the shared tone and cold cautions common sense. That made it difficult to see from the outside. One day, I was writing in the chat about something new I wanted to start. First, I typed the honest version. It was clear what I wanted to do and why. Then I reread it, deleted several lines, and sent. It's just a little thing. We'll see if it works out. No one had replied yet. No one had had time to laugh at me or stop me. I brought a smaller version of myself into the conversation in advance because I knew she would be easier for everyone. Much later, a woman emailed me because she wanted an individual practice using my method. She asked, how much do you charge for that? I went quiet. There was no surprise in her question. She was not asking whether I had the right to charge money. She needed a price. I thought my work already had a place in the real world. One ordinary question showed me the difference. In my old environment, I tried in advance to prove that I didn't think too highly of myself. Here, the person simply wanted to know what the work cost. Our environment remembers our faults very well. Sometimes it keeps holding an old photograph in front of us, and out of politeness, we step back into the same pose every time. You can sincerely want change and at the same time be afraid of what it will do to closeness. Both desires are real. One part of you wants to name your price, move, leave a relationship, share your work, wear a bright dress, or say, this no longer works for me. Another part remembers how quickly the air at the table changes when you say something unfamiliar. This is why a setback rarely looks like one big decision against yourself. It hides in small things. You laugh immediately after a serious sentence. You add, maybe. You don't post a good photograph because someone might think you are trying too hard. You receive an invitation and answer 3 days later, even though you saw the message right away. The people close to you also carry a version of you in their minds. One remembers the girl who always doubted herself. Another is used to you listening and talking up almost no space in the conversation. A third knows you as a woman who survived a difficult period and should now be grateful for any kind of peace. In relationship psychology, there is a term called the Michelangelo phenomenon. The meaning is very human. The people around us continually respond to some version of us. One person asks a question as thought they believe in our next step. Another keeps returning us to an old failure. Over time, we've been moving toward the version we are seen as most often. Picture a sculptor. He looks at a piece of stone and works with it as thought the form is really inside. Something similar happens in relationships. A person who sees you as an author asks about the book. A person who sees you as an eternal dreamer asks when you are going to do something serious. No one controls you like a puppet. You still make your own choice. But the expectations of the people close to you become familiar road markings, especially when you are tired, frightened, or just beginning. The most subtle part comes later. The person is silent, but you keep editing yourself in their voice. You deleted the chat, moved to another city, and entered a new group. Then you introduced yourself by saying, I'm just trying to run a channel for now. Your old environment came with you. Now it lives inside one sentence. That is why we need a specific moment instead of the general thought. People are holding me back. Around my mother, I reverse a decision. Around my friend, I hide good news. At work, I agree before I have time to think. Once the movement has a name, you can work with it. Once you notice the influence of your environment, you want to do something immediately. Usually we turn onto one of three familiar paths. First, we explain everything to ourselves. Their family, my mother is just worried. My friend has always been pessimistic. Everyone talks like that in our town. The reasons may be true, but the next time you write a message, you remove half its meaning again because your own movement still went unnoticed. Then we begin collecting information. We watch videos about toxic friends, write down signs of jealousy, mute the chat, and clean up our feeds. The screen becomes quieter. Your hand still hovers over the send button because the habit of making the sentence smaller was never inside the notifications. The third path looks powerful. You announce that you have outgrown everyone. cut off contact, and go to a networking event. The room is full of strangers, loud music, and plastic name badges. No one knows your name. By the end of the evening, you want to go back to the people who at least understand your jokes. Going back to the old chat after a step like that feels like defeat. Shame is added to the familiar role. I couldn't even live properly. We don't need another list of people. We need a map that shows three things. Which environment makes you smaller, the movement you used to do it, and where you want to return. The Sati Method builds that map. First, it appears on paper. Then you bring the chosen state back through your hand, posture, and voice, and anchor piece of jewelry. So, let's take a sheet of paper, an ordinary pen, and the red pencil. And let's get it started. Place the sheet horizontally. Turn the phone face down and move it a little farther away, because the next few minutes belong only to you. Today, we are not judging anyone. We are not going to decide who is jealous, who loves you the wrong way, or whom you need to leave. Something else will appear on the page. The precious moment when you make yourself smaller around particular people. You will have three matrices. The lower matrix, will show the familiar emotional bottom. The middle matrix will show your attempts to climb out. The upper matrix will remind you of a state in which you were already freer, calmer, and more visible. At the very top of the page, write the honest desire in a single sentence. Begin with the words "I want" and give yourself a few seconds before you continue. Most often, your hand immediately wants to write about an external object. I want new friends. I want a different family. I want a strong environment. I want people to support me. These desires make sense, but their fulfillment depends entirely on someone else appearing, on their characters, and on their reaction. Translate the desire into a state that can live inside you right now. Ask yourself, who do I want to be around people even when they remain exactly as they are? The sentence, I want a supportive environment, can become, I want to speak freely about my work and not make it smaller after someone else pauses. The desire, I want new friends, can sound like, I want to feel alive and equal among people. And instead of, I want my family to stop devaluing me, you can write, I want to keep my self-respect. I want to keep my self-respect when the people close to me disagree. Close to me. Agree. Find your own words. A good request fits inside one breath and creates recognition. You read it and understand exactly which version of yourself it's about. Check the sentence with three questions. How do I want to feel around people? How do I want to speak and carry myself? Will this sentence still mean the same thing if no one around me changes today? Write the final sentence at the top. Do not add anything to it yet. It will become the direction of the entire practice. Draw two horizontal lines and divide the sheet into 3 white sections. Label them on the right. Lower matrix, middle matrix, and upper matrix. Now I will guide you through examples. Listen and notice which sentence creates a quiet response inside. Yes, I do that. Begin at the bottom. This is where the version of you lives who learned long ago to preserve belonging at the cost of your own voice. Remember a specific table, phone call, family group chat, or meeting. What happens to you there? Maybe you arrive with good news, but you listen to everyone else first, and by the end of the evening, you never share your own. Maybe you call a finished project a little adventure. When you receive a compliment, you immediately explain why you do not fully deserve it. When the conversation turns to your plans, you laugh half a second too early and change the subject yourself. Look deeper. What does your body do? Your shoulders move forward, your voice becomes quieter, your stomach tightens, and your fingers begin picking at the edge of your clothes. Sometimes the lower matrix is easiest to see in these small details. Now lift your eyes in the middle of the page. This is where the version of you lives who has already realized that the old way of relating has become too tight. She reads books about boundaries, saves intelligent posts, buys a course, go on a retreat, or decides to find new people. Write it here. Sometimes she mutes the chat for a week and feels incredible relief. Then she returns and writes in the familiar voice again. In the middle matrix, you may name your price honestly and offer a discount yourself 1 minute later. You may enter a new community, sit near the door for 40 minutes, and leave before meeting anyone. You may write a truthful message, reread it, and delete the exact lines where your strength was visible. Ask yourself, what have I already understood? What am I trying to do differently? At what point do I usually pull back? Write 3 or 4 answers in your own words. The middle matrix often feels more irritating than the lower one. You already see everything and you still slide back. But this is the first place where a choice appears, so treat this version of yourself gently. Move to the top. Here, we are looking for a state of light and success that has already appeared in your life at least once. Don't search for a perfect year or for someone who always understood you correctly. A short episode is enough. A teacher gave you a difficult task because they believed you were capable. The client heard your price calmly. The woman you did not know asked a serious question and waited for your answer. Maybe that moment happened on a trip where no one knew your old story, at the conference, in a course, in a conversation with someone around whom you suddenly stopped explaining yourself in advance. Return there for a few seconds. What did you feel? How were you sitting or standing? What did your voice sound like? What did you allow yourself to say, do, or receive? Write down one real moment and several signs of that version of you. For example, I speak directly. I don't rush to fill the silence. I make eye contact. I make contact. I receive a good question without explaining myself. And leave 3 blank lines in the upper matrix. We will return here later. Now, look at all 3 sections and add anything that surfaced along the way. Let the matrices be filled with living observations, not perfect wording. Place a small dot where you are today. Most often it lands somewhere between the lower and middle matrices. Even if you're at the bottom, that is a normal place to begin. Return to the lower matrix. Find one action that repeats more often than the others and makes your contract the most. Usually your eyes already know the answer. It may be the point you wrote smaller than the rest, that sentence you want to cover with your hand, or the habit for which you have already prepared 10 reasonable explanations. Take a red pencil and circle the chosen pattern once with the red pencil. Only once. Now address yourself as you. Say calmly, maybe, you called important work a little side job. Or you hid the good news because you were already afraid of their reaction. Inside you, a habit like this often sounds like a verdict. I'm always like this. Speaking to yourself from the outside turns the verdict into one specific episode. Now you can see the whole thing. One circle matters. We are noticing this version and beginning to let her go, so there is no need to repeat the circle. Find the moment in the upper matrix when you were freer and more confident. Place a small dot beside it. Draw a line from the circle pattern at the bottom to that point at the top. Then repeat the same path 6 more times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 lines in total, one over another. Move slowly, your hands shows your brain the way, and your body rehearses a path that used to exist only as a rare memory. The lines may move apart, let them. A transition in life is rarely perfectly straight either, but the direction remains the same. The number 7 is connected to the Buddhist story of the Buddha's birth. He took 7 steps and a lotus opened beneath each one. In the Sati Method, 7 became the number of transition. Count the lines quietly. On the 7th, stop and look at the entire route. Here is the place where you disappear, and here is the state you already know how to return to. Return to the circled pattern in the lower matrix. Before the first movement, say a few warm words to this version of yourself. You helped me keep my place among them. You protected the connection the best way you knew how. Now cross out the pattern 7 times. With each line, say one word. I am not going back anymore. 7 words. The old role may have protected you from loneliness, ridicule, and adults' anger, or the feeling that you were too different. It appeared for a reason. Now the cost of that protection has become too high. Draw the lines firmly, without anger. Stop on the 7th. Don't demand immediate relief from yourself. Sadness, anger, emptiness, or calm may come. Any reaction had the right to remain beside you while you continue the practice. Return to the blank space in the upper matrix. Write a short sentence in the first person, beginning with I. The sentence should carry the state from step 1 and sound like your everyday language. This is possible options. I speak about my life at its real size. I speak my life in its real size. I can stay close and remind myself. I can calmly hold someone else's disagreement. I allow myself to feel joy openly. Choose one sentence. It should fit inside one breath. Now, close your eyes and return to the episode from the upper matrix. Remember it from the inside, the position of your feet, shoulders and hands, the pace of your speech, your facial expression, the depth of your breath. Find one physical detail and repeat it now. Open your shoulders, release your jaw, place both feet on the floor or lift your chin only as much as that version of you did. Stand up if you can, pick up the page and read the sentence aloud once, calmly and without performing confidence. I speak it, my love, at this real size. Feel your hand rolled it, your body took the shape, your voice said it. 3 doors opened into one state. Stay in this posture for one more breath. Lay the page back down. Draw a circle around the sentence in the upper matrix 7 times, one outline over another. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A closed circle means completion. The decision has a boundary and remains full on the page. Don't try to draw it neatly. Focus only on closing each circle. During the first lines, you're still reading the words. Then, your hand continues on its own while your attention remains in the state you have just brought back through posture and voice. On the 7th circle, stop. Lay the pencil beside the page and look at the sentence in the silence for a few seconds. You do not need to prove anything now. The upper version has already taken her place on the page. And one last thing, the most important thing. Without this, everything you have just written may remain nothing more than a beautiful sheet of paper. The page itself doesn't change your environment. Change begins with the version of you who enters the conversation, the way you say the important sentence, and whether you stay with yourself when another person's familiar reactions pulls you back into the old role. Do this practice for at least 30 days. Every morning, bring the upper matrix back into your body. Don't simply remember her. Become her for at least 1 or 2 minutes. Continue until one day you notice a small but very important moment. You talked about your project and didn't call it a little experiment. You shared good news and didn't immediately derail it. You named your prize without a long explanation. You heard a familiar joke and didn't laugh with everyone just to make the discomfort disappear faster. That is when you will understand the road on the page has started appearing in your life. And this is where we need an anchor. Choose a piece of jewelry you can wear every day, something you already love, or something new chosen especially for this practice. A ring, necklace, earrings, or bracelet, any piece you can touch discreetly at the moment you need it will work. Each morning, do a short ritual. Stand or sit in the posture of your apparition. Open your shoulders, release your jaw, breathe slowly, return to the episode you wrote in the upper matrix. Remember it from the inside. How were you sitting or standing? Where were you looking? What did your voice sound like? What was happening in your body when you didn't have to become smaller, more convenient, or easier to understand? Stay there. Don't say anything aloud. You don't need words now. Simply remember, feel, and allow your body to take the familiar shape. In that moment, hold it gently in your palm or touch it with your fingers. Let that touch become connected to the posture, the breath, and the feeling of the upper matrix. Repeat this every morning during the day. Touch the jewelry in the seconds when the old role usually returns, before you open the family group chat, before meeting someone around whom you begin adopting your own decisions. Before we talk about a new project, name your prize, share good news, or enter a group where no one knows you yet, touch the jewelry. Take one slow breath. Feel your shoulders, chin, and hands. Remember the woman from the upper matrix. Only then speak. Don't tell the people around you or try to make them give you the right reaction. Their response may be anything. Your task during these 30 days goes much deeper. Stay with yourself in the moment when being around them begins to feel unfamiliar. At first, you will remember the anchor after the conversation. For example, after the message has been sent and the important sentence has become smaller again. Then you will notice the old role during the conversation itself. And one day, your hand will reach for the jewelry 1 second before you say, "Oh, it's nothing serious." That is when a choice appears. After some time, the jewelry itself becomes a door. One touch and your body remembers the posture, the breath, the voice, and the road you drew 7 times on the page. And one day, you will enter the old environment differently, not prepared to different yourself, not made smaller in advance. So, from the state, you will begin to notice who is able to meet the real you, who needs time, and around whom the old connection survived only because you kept making yourself smaller. But that is the next step. Pause. Put down the pencils, leave the page in frame, and look directly into the camera. That is the entire method. 8 steps, 1 sheet of paper, 3 matrices, and the version of you who no longer needs to become smaller in order to belong. Now for the most ordinary question: where do you go? The phrase "find a new environment" Sounds beautiful until Tuesday evening arrives and you can't think of a single place where anyone is expecting you. Begin with repetition. In one well-known experiment, several women simply appeared in university classes a different number of times and spoke to no one. Students liked the faces they saw again and again more often. The practical conclusion is simple. You do not need to introduce yourself brilliantly in the first 5 minutes of a new place. Go back the following week. Then go again. Familiarity often begins before the first real conversation. At the moment when your face stops being unfamiliar. Choose one place with a fixed schedule and give it 4 visits. Not 4 different events, the same space, the same day of the week, and really the same people. Look for people who know how to speak concretely about work, not only about inspiration, purpose, and the desire to help. It could be a professional meetup, a small community of specialists, a shared table at a co-working space, an industry group, or any circle where people discuss contracts, deadlines, price, and results. Listen to the language. One person says, "This is what I charge for that work." Another asks what is included in the price. No one goes, excuses them of being greedy or suggests doing everything for free in exchange for experience. A good money environment doesn't have to be filled with millionaires. It's simply a place where no one is ashamed to treat work as work. People exchange contacts, warn one another about difficult clients, discuss taxes, and calmly admit that they want to earn money. I read Signal. Many loud promises, displays of luxury, and very little detail. The decorations of success are useless. Look for conversations that make it easier to name your price and do the work. For the body, look for regular practice where people are noticed for participating, not for the size of their clothes. It may be a Tuesday yoga, dance, swimming, a working group, strength training, or a studio where the same people return. Predictability matters: the time, the place, and the instructor. After several weeks, people greet you by name because you came, not because you lost weight. Both experience workout clothes or perform the pose perfectly. Pay attention to how people talk about the body there. A good instructor asks how you feel, offers a variation of the exercise, and doesn't turn every meal into a moral test. The woman in the group can be different, and no one has to apologize for her body. The body of your dreams rarely takes shape in a space filled with constant shame. It changes where you can return to the practice without being publicly punished for missing a week. For relationships, look for places where a person sees you're doing something. Instead of only evaluating a photograph and a short profile description. Courses, volunteering, a book club, a workshop, a conversation group, group trips, or any activity that brings the same people together regularly can work. Character reveals itself gradually there. Who keeps their word? Who knows how to listen? Who helps without making a performance of it? And who respects another person's no? On an app, it's easy to perform the ideal version of yourself for one evening. In a recurring activity, the masks get tried quickly. You also stop trying to guess whether someone liked you and being noticing the person. A healthy environment for love doesn't promise a partner by a particular date. It gives you the chance to be seen while you are engaged, capable, and not asking for an evaluating every minute. On the fourth or fifth visit, say one sentence about yourself at its real size. Not a presentation, one sentence. I'm growing my channel and I want to turn it into my work. I came here because I want a strong, alive body. I'm looking for relationships where people speak directly. Then observe. Green signal, they listen to the end. Ask a normal question, share the experience, or simply accept the sentence without making a face. Yellow, someone made a joke but can return to the subject after you say, I'm serious. Red, the group repeatedly turns other people's goals into a joke, punishes boundaries, or requires you to make yourself smaller before you can belong. You don't need to leave the people from your old life on the day you do this practice. Some relationships will hold you new size. Others will naturally become less frequent because the conversation can no longer depend on your making yourself smaller. Show the new version first, then see who can speak with her. This channel is about love. Sometimes self-love does not look romantic at all. You name your price, you stay through the silence. You talk about a good day, even though your friend had a difficult week. You don't turn your own project into a joke just to keep everyone at the table comfortable. Not every connection will remain the same, but you will have the chance to learn who loves the living version of you and who was only used to the convenient role. Money, the body, work, relationships, and environment meet in the same place. The second, when something begins to feel unfamiliar and you decide whether to return to the old version. You do not need to create a new person. The larger version has already appeared. Today, you draw the road back to her. Today, take one sheet of paper and complete the entire practice. Return to the upper matrix every morning for at least 30 days. 1 or 2 minutes is enough. Stand in her posture. Remember her breath, her gaze, her voice. Spend a little time at the version of yourself who doesn't need to become smaller in order to remain loved. If nothing unusual happens during the first few days, that is okay. Sometimes you don't notice the shift during the practice itself. It appears later. You send a message and suddenly realize you didn't add the familiar phrase, I'm just trying it for now. You share good news and don't take it away from yourself with a joke. You hear a familiar question and for the first time, don't change your decision simply to make everyone else feel calmer. Give yourself time. That is part of the method too. Tell me in the comments how many of the 4 things you recognized. I read every comment and I want to know what changed inside you by the time you draw in the final circle. In the next video, we will talk about the moment that destroys change, just when everything finally begins to work. You have already come through a difficult period. Your strength has returned. Work has begun moving. Money is coming. Your relationship have become calmer. You wake up and for the first time in a long time I think I really made it out. Then something strange happens. You postpone an important step even though you were ready yesterday. You ruin a good conversation. You turn down an opportunity you asked for yourself. From outside, it looks like laziness, fear of success, another setback. But in that moment, two very important parts of you maybe colliding inside. One wants to keep going. She wants money, love, freedom, recognition, a new life. The other is trying to preserve something that matters too. Closeness with family, the right to rest, a familiar role, a sense of safety, your place among your own people. Both are telling the truth. And while they pull you in different decisions, your energy goes into a struggle you do not even notice. You keep working on yourself, learning and making plans. Then you find yourself back where you started. And you think, there must be something wrong with me. In the next video, I will show you how to see this inner conflict before it destroys the result. We will place both sides on paper. We will hear what each one is trying to preserve for you, and we will find a path where you don't have to choose between a new life and the part of yourself you're afraid to lose. I'm Sweden. This is Notice This. Notice, return, choose.